JJ, the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. So we know that the president signed an executive order for a deferral of payroll tax for employees. So the IRS yesterday, I think late yesterday, Friday, right? A lot of things come out on Friday guidance wise on how this is going to work, what wages it applies to, when you have to pay them back, and how you pay it back. So let's walk through that right now. But before we do, real quick, if you made it to my channel, you're not a subscriber, thanks for tuning in. And then I just ask that you would take a second and click it. All right, let's get into this. So the first thing to note is that we're going to visit about this executive order as it relates to W-2 wages. I will have a separate video discussing how this possibly affects the self-employed. So for those that receive wages, this is what that applies to. The IRS came out with the guidance, and I put a link in the body of this video that is to the PDF that the IRS released. And they got to the point pretty quick, and really what it is this. It's any wages that are paid between September 1 and December 31, and it is on wages up to $2,000 a week paid to the employee, and it's just week by week. It's not an accumulative. It seems as though it applies to anyone receiving wages, including owners of a business. So it's not just for an employee who's a non-owner, in the sense that it was silent to that, so it will be for everybody that receives wages. And the thing to note is that out of the CARES Act and out of the Families First Coronavirus Family Relief Act, there were a number of things related to payroll tax. That was all for the employer. So sick leave, expanded family medical leave act, those tax credits are for the employer. The deferral of Social Security employer tax that came out of the CARES Act is for the employer. So this is the first time that we're having any relief given to the employees, and that's key here, because what this does is it affects the take home for the employee. It is not mandatory in the sense that the employee does have the choice if they want to do this, and they do have to pay it back between January 1st, 2021 and April 30th, 2021. So from the standpoint of how it's paid back, it is through withholdings January 1st through April 30th. They will do that ratably. It will be withheld from their wages. If they change employers, it'll be with the new employer, but it will be the employee's responsibility to get it paid back. So if the employee is not employed anywhere, unfortunately, then the taxpayer has to make arrangements to pay it back. For now, they've not indicated that. There's time, but they've not indicated any of that. In terms of how to track it from the employer side, they've not indicated that. In terms of how it'll be reflected on the W-2, the W-3, the 941, and the 940, we have yet to know how that will actually be recorded, reported, and from my standpoint, what we're going to worry about right now is what goes into play September 1st, which is the calculation of the take-home of the employee. So I'm going to run through some examples here with you, but in a nutshell, it is the employee's wages up to $2,000 a week. The Social Security tax that's withheld is 6.2. That's what the employee's net pay would be increased by, because that 6.2% would not be withheld. It would then, though, be paid back in the first 4 months of 2021. So it is very temporary relief. For my clients, I know that they will need to recommend it. I don't want to say recommend it. They'll only need to inform their employees, but I'm urging my clients that are employers to let their employees know about it and not necessarily discourage it, but to really make sure the employee understands they're gonna have to pay it back January through April. And the way that I think an employee should be presented it is, what I'm gonna look back here is that whatever the savings are, multiply that out to figure out, well, how much are you gonna save between now and the end of the year? So how much more take home are you gonna have between September 1st and the end of the year? So it should be a really quick calculation, pretty close, pretty easy, a good estimate to say, so you are gonna have to pay that back January through April. Is that worth it for you? You know, from the standpoint, that'll be less take home the first 4 months of next year. My employees will be made aware of it. We all left before I saw that this came out, and I'll be doing that same thing with them to let them know, hey, we can do this. It'll be more take home between September 1st and December 31st, but then you'll have less take home because you're gonna have to pay it all back. If it's not paid back by April 30, then arrangements have to be made with the IRS by the taxpayer. The employee will have a direct then payment plan somehow, some way, and there'll be penalties and interest that accrues after May 1st. So how is that all gonna work? Stay tuned, because we don't know yet. The IRS will let us know, rest assured, they have time. So September 1st, starting then, okay? What we're talking about here is the presidential executive order. And I might encourage you to take a screenshot right now that you could refer back to. Got a nice summary here for you. So this is the presidential executive order. To make it clear, this is on the employees' withholdings. It's nothing more than a deferral. People say tax holiday, it's a good way to look at it, but you're gonna have to pay it back. So it's a holiday, but you're gonna have to pay it back. So to me, I'm not sure what that holiday doesn't compute with me, but that's what, if you're hearing about a tax, payroll tax holiday for employees, this is this. It's not a cut in any way, shape, or form, even though it may be called a cut. It's not. Cut would be you're never gonna have to pay it back. That's not the case. It is the Social Security portion of tax withheld only. So also withheld from wages is 1.45% Medicare tax. That still is going to be withheld. That does not apply to this. It only applies to the Social Security tax being withheld. So it's wages that are paid between September 1st and 12/31 of 2020 on max $2,000 per week of wages. Okay, so probably should put that in there just to be clear. Okay. So if you have an employee and they make $3,000 a week, okay, then this will only apply to the first $2,000 a week. And I'm going to run through some examples over here. You just have to run the math out. If somebody gets paid bi-weekly or semi-monthly or monthly, you just do the math to go, well, how much did they get paid? And you basically go, well, it's not more than, it's not more than $2,000 a week, right? And then you figure it out from there. So when we're talking about the deferral, okay, we come down here, the employee has to repay it to the IRS. Okay, they're not repaying it to the employer. The employer is just the conduit here. They're not withholding it, and then later the taxpayer needs to have the employer withhold it and send it into the IRS. So it's repaid January 1st, 2021, April 30, 2021. So we're getting 4 months of relief, if you will, from these withholdings to then have 4 months in the first of next year, where in essence it'll be double. So their 6.2% won't come out for the last 4 months, but there's going to be the 6.2% for the first 4 months of 2021 plus the repayment of 6.2. So there'll be 12.4% being withheld in the first 4 months. So you have to think through, is it worth having that savings now to then have to pay it all back in the first 4 months? And for some, that may absolutely be the case. So how? Well, through withholdings is how it gets paid back. It's regardless of the employer. Meaning if you have an employee and they change employers, through the new employer, they need to inform them, and that employer would need to withhold extra Social Security tax and remit it. That will be a little bit of a nightmare. Nonetheless, that's how it'll work. If the employee is not employed, they will have to pay it back. We don't know how yet, but you will still have to pay it back. So there's no, well, I didn't know how to pay it back. There's no, well, I was at a different employer. There's no, well, the employer didn't tell me next year. It's not, well, I changed employers and I forgot. Well, that, I mean, okay, but now you're going to have penalties and interest on whatever's not paid back May 1. And I'm more just saying that as the responsibility is really put on the employee here. The employer is the one providing, not really providing, but ensuring the benefit is taken, so to speak, and can withhold extra, but they're not putting the employer in an enforcement position here, because if the employee says, well, you're not withholding the extra, and the employer then doesn't do it, well, the employee is still going to be liable for it to the IRS. Now, the employee is not required to participate. So a few examples. Coop's over doing some dishes and he's doing them super quiet, and you're doing an awesome job. But if you hear a few clinks, no, Coop is really trying to be respectful of you watching this video. So wages, okay, this is all wages. So if you are in a position, move this here a little bit and then we'll move it back, okay? So on the wages, you have someone, or if you're trying to figure out your own, you make $500 a week. Well, it's less than $2,000. So 500 times 6.2%, there'll be $31 more take home. If someone's paid bi-weekly and it's $3,000, well, bi-weekly it'd be up to $4,000 in that pay period. So the full $3,000 qualifies times 6.2%, there'd be another $186 of take home. There would be $186 not withheld, more take home. If someone's paid semi-monthly, $2,500, well, you'd have to kind of look. It's like, well, per week it's $2,000, bi-weekly it's $4,000. How does that come? I'm more showing you that, okay, but if you're less than $2,500, there's no real calculation to figure out, because that's clearly less than $2,000 a week or $4,000 in the bi-weekly. But that would save the employee $155 temporarily till they have to pay it back. If someone's paid monthly, $7,000. Well, weekly you get $2,000. So basically in a month that'd be $8,000 rough, right? So $7,000, all of it would be applied or applicable times 6.2%. So there would be more take home of $434. Think of it this way, okay? Weekly, if you get paid weekly $31, and we're going to use real simple math, okay? So let's say for 4 months, right? September, October, November, December. And let's just assume there's 4 weeks in every month, right? So there's going to be 16 payroll periods that you're going to save $31. So take $31 times 16 weeks. That's then the amount that will have been accrued that you have to pay back next year. Or stated another way, you save $31 per payroll period between now and the end of the year. Well, for all the payroll periods in the first 4 months of 2021, you're going to have that amount additional withheld. So it's a zero-sum game, okay? So take home is here, okay? But there's going to be less tax withheld if you elect to do this in the last 4 months of this year. So what happens with take home? It's going to go up. But if here's your normal take home, okay, the amount that your net pay went up, it's going to go down by that same amount in the first 4 months of 2021. So it's a zero end game. You save $31, you're going to pay $31 back later. So if you're trying to anticipate and just run the numbers, so if someone saves $434 temporarily by not having that withheld, you have 4 months, right? So little, maybe around $1,700 that they would save, but then that's $1,700 that the employee has to pay back in the first 4 months. So what I'm trying to make clear to you is that this is very, very, very temporary relief. Probably who it would apply to would be to the unfortunate circumstances where you have a two income earning household and one of them has lost their job or is making less or whatever the case is, and so more take home is needed and helped. So not at all am I saying this isn't helpful, but what I am trying to make clear to you is that if you don't need to do this, as I'm recommending to my clients, and my clients, I'm going to have them recommend to their employees, not a discouragement, but to really make clear this is a zero-sum game. This is a zero-sum game. And so for my clients that are watching this, I would actually just recommend you have your employees watch this video to talk about how it works, how the withholdings would be reduced but then increased, and it's a zero-sum game. So in an 8-month period, okay, you had less taken out, then you had more taken out. You didn't take any take home. You didn't take any more take home in after this 8-month period. Does that make sense? So you saved the first 4 months, you're going to pay it right back the next 4 months. So in this 8-month period, nothing really was accomplished. So the amount not withheld, okay? So whatever's not withheld is due with wages. So I'm anticipating there's going to probably be some employees that will say, well, can I do it partial? It doesn't say in the IRS guidelines. I do think for employers it needs to be, I think, an either or, but there's nothing in the guidelines. I'm sure there'll be something that comes out, but I would just say on the surface and at the beginning, it's either or to be able to track it. If for some reason you have an employee that doesn't want to do it, but then in the last 2 months they can, doesn't appear there's anything prohibiting that employee from making the decision to participate later. Meaning, it sounds as though they can choose if they want to participate payroll period by payroll period. So you probably should really come up with something in writing. There's nothing available. You'd have to make it yourself because it hadn't even been 24 hours that this guidance has been out. But you want to make sure that somehow if your if your employee is going to participate in this, that you document it only so that later you're not the bad person. You're not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. I didn't do anything. You elected to not have this tax withheld. So I really would encourage that if an employee's going to do it, they just really probably need to do it for all of it. Although the IRS doesn't appear that is a required, meaning it's not all in or all out. So that'll add to the complexity of this. We work closely with a wonderful payroll company, Alliant. So I know I'll be in touch with them on Monday since this came out after I believe everybody had left for the weekend. All right, hey, running through this as there's more guidance, I will bring it to you. Thanks for tuning in. And hey, real quick, boy, I'm glad you stayed tuned because I want to give you $1,000. I got this book that just came out. You can find it on Amazon.com. You buy it, send me a copy of your receipt by email. I put your name in the hat, and you might win $1,000 because your name will be in the hat, and I'm going to draw a name out of the hat on September 11th on my live show on YouTube between 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time and 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time on my YouTube channel on September 11th. Details are in the body of this as well. So $19.97 for the book. You buy it, you email me the receipt. I put your name in the hat with your email. We draw it, literally $1,000 cash to you. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed and you made it to here, what's going on? Like, what's going on? Oh, do you need an account with YouTube? Super easy. You got your Gmail, sign up. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. And don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great day.
You know what it is, man. Hey, we about to crack the CPA code.